And now I want to do something that's a particular pleasure, and that is to honor Paolo Soleri, who's been very important in my life, though I haven't seen you in about 15 years, or not much. But in any case, I wanted to talk a little bit about Paolo and his influence on me and on, I think, all of us. I had the very good fortune of catching a hitchhiking trip from a friend of his who was saying, would you like to visit, said to me, would I like to visit a famous architect in this hitchhiking trip from Arizona back to California? And I said, well, certainly, of course I'd like to do that. It sounds like fun on the way. And it was Paolo Soleri. And those were different times. They were quite different times. At this conference, I've heard people say, we're at a tipping point now. We have to grasp the moment. The climate is changing, we're approaching peak oil production, demand is going up, and supply is going to start going down. We need to build the lean city, the efficient city that uses very little energy, it takes up less land, and makes room for nature. And so people have been talking about tipping points, but you have to remember, I met Paolo Soleri when I was 21 years old. That's 43 years ago, 1965, and in those days we were going to the moon, remember? And so in those days, it wasn't any old tipping point. We were talking about liftoff into this wild future where we were going to explore the universe and build whatever we wanted to build. And what attracted me so much in the early years to Paolo's thinking was that we could build something that's extraordinarily healthy and happy. We're no longer able to have that full throttle liftoff of our trip to the moon. Since those days, we've burned up probably 80 or 85% of all the oil that's ever been burned in the world. We're probably about halfway through that supply, and the rest of it's going to be really expensive compared to what we had before. So we're in a low-energy future starting right now. But the tipping point becomes rather relevant, and we can either muster our strength and all the contributions that we have here, we can somehow gather our energy together and move forward to rebuild our environment, or we can fail to do that. But the moment is at hand, and I think we have the tools, the knowledge, we have the history, we can learn from our mistakes, and we can move forward. And I just want to say thank you, Paolo Soleri, and can you come up here so I can merely shake your hand publicly? And you can say whatever you want. You can say
We know that there are causes and there are effects. We are very good at trying to help, modify, improve the effects. We seem to be indifferent at the causes. And in order to be able to cope with effects, we should know more about the causes. The advent of technology, helped by science, has brought in this avalanche of productivity as an extraordinary explosion of modifying, altering, transforming, and inventing the environment. This is so magic for our generation that we cannot stop in any direction. So the feasible is an enormous field of action. The desirable would be a much less ample field of action. But eventually we might need to try to understand more what might be desirable and try to tone down what's feasible. When this event is going to cover not only the West, but the whole of the globe, or at least 4 or 5 billion of us, chances are we might have a catastrophe, unless we wise up somehow. And I think we are living in a catastrophe right now. So it's up to us to do some rethinking and maybe try to come up with reformulations. Reforming is no longer sufficient. We have to reformulate. And that's a very difficult thing to do because it requires an investment in well-being, in humility, and patience, lots of patience. Keeping in mind there are still about 2 billion of people which are starving or they are out of our very prideful notion that we are the top of reality and we can do anything we want to. Thank you.